Hey everybody, Jeff Mays here, your sales coach. I was thinking about something that I think is really important, and it's especially important to you as a sales manager. If you're watching this video and thinking that you are a sales manager, you probably know you are, but if you're thinking that maybe someday you want to be a sales manager, this would be really important. And it's really, the subtitle explains it. It's 3 things they never taught you in sales manager school. Well, if you're like me, you never had a sales manager school, right? 3 things that you should learn that are never taught in sales manager school. Well, I wanted to talk just a little bit about that. Let's talk about the normal sales manager training. This is usually what happens, and it happened to me, is that I was promoted from within. I was a good salesperson. Okay, maybe I was great. I was doing a great job selling products, taking care of my customers, and management said, we'd like to make you sales manager because the old sales manager is retiring and you would make a good person to replace him. Well, okay, what training did I get? Well, I really never got any training about being a sales manager. Probably 7 years later in that job, I got some training as a sales manager. And it came as a one-off thing that the corporation said, we've never trained our sales managers. It'd be a great time to do it. Well, in the interim, those 7 years that I was doing my job, there was little, if any, training other than about the business. There was some product training that the salespeople had to take that I always kept up on, because I figured I had to know everything they knew. And then the business training was about business systems. During that course of time, we went through a business system, an operating system within the business upgrade. And my sales coordinator, about the same time, quit. So I lost my one person that knew how to do everything, and I actually had to go in and learn how to run the business system in order to be able to set it up for this new upgrade that we got. Well, I learned more about the business system in those few months than I ever wanted to learn. Maybe you've been through an experience like that. It's really kind of mind-boggling because as a salesperson, the last thing I want to do is worry about the stuff that's in a business operating system. Codes and accounts and all those things that are important to people that count beans didn't mean much to me. And if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, trust me, salespeople don't like that sort of thing. One of the things about that experience that I learned was that most of the people that I worked for over the course of time when I wasn't working for myself were accountants. And I think in today's world, many of the managers, the general managers, the comptrollers, obviously are accountants that have come up through the ranks in their specific areas. They look at things totally different than I did as a sales manager. Well, that's all well and good, but I really found there was no help. I was a really good salesperson. I knew how to do my job. I'd had experience as a business owner prior to being a sales manager, and that was really good for me because I understood a lot more than probably the average salesperson would, and there was really no help for me. There was really some training that I had to make my own way. I had to create my own thought processes. I fortunately study a lot, and I learned a lot. I read a lot about management, and I became, a pretty well-educated sales manager, and it was good, but I was frustrated because there really wasn't much help in a formal way to help me do my job. Well, the problems that always come up when you're a sales manager, there's probably more than this, but there's 4 big ones that I find myself and other people I've worked with always seem to have. And the first one is that sales are never the way we plan them. When you're working for somebody else as a sales manager, you've got to plan and tell people what you project and forecast and do those things that are really tough to do, and then your sales don't do what they're supposed to do. So there's really some basic ways that you can start to change the way that is, and we'll talk about those. But the next problem is your sales team, they're working at their own pace. They have a great month and they do a bunch of sales, and then the next month they do nothing. And granted, over the course of a year, they average out. But if you could just get them to work more each month, if you could just get them to average that higher rather than lower, if you get them to level up their sales 3 or 4 levels, which my experience was salespeople probably at least 2 and maybe 3 months a year, they had bad months. And if you could just get them on level, that higher level the rest of the months, they could level up their whole year. And that was always a frustration for me. The sales teams usually, especially if you have older salespeople that have been around for a while, they draw a line in the sand against you as sales manager. I was about 35 when I became a sales manager at a pretty good sized operation, and everybody in the building was not talking to me. General manager was, the comptroller was, but everybody else was like, you're trying to take my job. They became very scared. They became very nervous that I was going to try to change things around them that would change their way of doing things. Maybe I'd try to steal their customers from them. I didn't have customers. That wasn't my job. But it's still salespeople that had been there for a long time were looking at me going, man, you're trying to come in here and steal my customers. And last thing in the world I want to do, I want to keep their customers with them so they can have the relationship. I don't want 7 or 8 people's customers coming to me. That's why I have those people. But anyway, they didn't understand that, and they thought I was trying to do things to manipulate or change or switch territories, or they always came up with these great ideas that I never had the idea. I never even thought about doing it. Why would I do that? Well, it became very frustrating. And that frustration for me led to things that just weren't very positive. I was, eating too much. I was drinking too much. I was spending time doing things like work, 12, 13 hours a day working. I totally committed myself to the job, but I was really not being very happy because I was frustrated. I was getting paid on a bonus system that I could seem like never meet. And here I was, going from a salesperson that was pretty happy and good to now a sales manager that I felt like I was a failure. And it became very difficult. So I had to train myself. I had to look at that and figure out what was the best way for me to change what I was doing. Well, here's kind of what I did. I decided I really needed to introduce some change into the whole process. I actually documented everything that we were doing in that organization and wrote job descriptions. They'd never had that in that particular business. And when we wrote the job descriptions, all of a sudden, then I could look at a salesperson and say, hey, why are you doing that? That's not your job. It's not your job to do the accounting. It's not your job to spend a lot of time worrying about this or that. And if it's not working, you need to let me know. And then I could spend the time as their manager and go take care of the problems they were having. By doing that little bit of change, just that one thing, and I did several things, but just by doing that one thing, making sure they knew what their job was, and they also knew what the service department, the parts department, the accounting department, all those other departments had a reason to be there. And when they were able to do that, what they're supposed to do, it was much easier for them to do their job. Then I introduced something about sitting down with each of my salespeople, not a review, but a purpose and goal session. And I really wanted to find out what their goals and what their purpose were for working. And by doing that, then I was able to help them through a review process to meet what they wanted to do to get to where they were going. Totally changed my relationship with my salespeople. And by being able to look at them and ask them, is that really what you want to do long term? Is that meeting your goal that you set? And they'd answer it. They knew. They were either on track or they weren't. And if they were on track, we definitely promoted. If they were off track, it's time for a little adjustment. It was really a lot of good for us. It was great for the motivation. It was great for the overall monthly production, because if you're on track every day, you're more likely to keep growing your sales. And then the other thing that really happened was, by doing those things, they all of a sudden understood I wasn't competing with them, I was creating with them. I turned them from salespeople into a sales team. And that team working together worked for the company and didn't just work for themselves. Salespeople are, by basic nature, are very private. They're lone wolves. They want to go out and do their thing. And when all of a sudden you've got those lone wolves coming together on a common purpose, on a common goal, we did purpose and goal setting as a team. How much better could it get? Well, we really changed things. We leveled up the company's sales over the course of a few years. That we went from mid 7 figures to 8 figures in sales, and that was a big difference. It made everybody more money, made me more money, and it certainly brought a lot of happiness to a lot of people, and made us a bigger company as we did it. It was so important to grow that way. And I think every sales organization can find something with a little review and a little analysis and using some creativity. You can come up with something that will help your team grow. And you can do it in a way that really works the best for you and the people you work with. I'd like to tell you more about this. I'd like to have you join my master class. I call it Level Up Your Sales Game. It's going to be happening on July 25th through the 29th, just in time to get the second quarter or second half of the year going. And it'd be a great time to jump on this 1 hour a day master class. It's going to be over 5 days, and then we'll have a chance to get to know a little bit more. I'm going to present some things that will really help you. I'm going to have some what I call secrets that nobody ever touch about sales and sales management. I think those secrets, they're not so secret, but they're certainly things that you can use to level up your sales team. And then, we want to figure out how to get your sales team motivated. And one way to do it, and there's one good way to do it, and I'm going to tell you all about that on this class. And finally, I want to give you some ideas of how to keep your sales team going every month with a whole lot less stress. Get everybody working in the same direction so that every month your sales are leveling up versus an erratic path. I think it'd be a great idea for you to join. There's a link under the video here, or you can just type in sales.successforlife.us. I'll take you to the registration page. I'd love to have you there as my guest. And I look forward to seeing you on July 25th through the 29th as we level up your sales game. I'm Jeff Mays. I'm the Sales Coach.